I'm Kirsten Crutcher, and I do know everybody here today, so that's wonderful. Thank y'all so much for being here. In the summertime, I always like to do something a little bit more fun, not just a lunch, which are very fun, but, drinks at Stacy's cool building. I mean, what can be better, right? So thank y'all all for coming down. I like to thank my sponsors, so I have to do that before anything else goes on. But I want to thank Stratos, who's getting a drinker. Oh, he got his drink. Over here from eBiz Solutions. They do our website. They're wonderful. Thank you, Stratos, for all you do for us. I said that. Campfire Collective. Shannon is working. He's back there. Lisa decided to go to California. I can really appreciate that. So she's not here to check y'all all in. So we may do. No one from Paragon was able to be here today, but we couldn't do these meetings without Paragon. So y'all tell them that we thank them for that while we were here today. And, of course, Junior Achievement, Lee Mansver. We've had a wonderful partnership with Junior Achievement. We give our Master Entrepreneurial Award every year at the dinner, which we recently inducted. The wonderful Stacy McCall is in November.
Thank you.
So I am very excited about being here tonight with Stacy and for y'all to hear Stacy see this wonderful building, the special speakeasy, and I'm just going to turn it over to you. I know y'all are all going, well, we always get to say our name and company name, but Stacy has something special for that.
Well, there you go. Thank you very much, Kirsten. And thank you for coming tonight. And we're going to do this very different and interactive. And so we'll just see how it flows. So bear with me because I thought it would be better than me just sort of standing up here, being a talking head, and let's have a conversation. And so starting school, what did you grab when you came through the door? You grabbed the alphabet. Those cards you're holding, my mother had for me over 60 years ago. And I found every letter in the alphabet but U. And so I had to turn an N upside down and tape the back of it so that we would have a U. But I was going, way to go, Mama. You held it all together for me. But what we're going to do is I want you to be able to, I'll call out our first letter. If you have the letter, like we'll start with A, I want you to introduce yourself to everyone here, your name, your company, and then I want you to tell us why you pulled that letter out of all the letters of the alphabet. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about each letter as we go along. So will you play along with me? Awesome. So let's start with the letter A. As we talk about entrepreneurs and journeys and what the path has been, part of my journey was in Amarillo, Texas. I worked for a company called Diamond Shamrock, and I was a petroleum engineer, sort of tech, learning the ropes. What I learned in Amarillo, Texas was you don't go to a town when you don't know that you have a place to live. I slept on a couch for 2 weeks trying to find a place to live, house sitting for somebody in an apartment, not knowing which way I was going to end up, which, by the way, I was 19 at the time. I ended up having to share a small little house with a sweet young lady, but the problem was she didn't tell me we didn't have 2 beds. We had to share a water bed together for the semester, but it just made me who I am today. So another A that I put down was asking for help is not weakness. So asking for help is not weakness. B, who has B? B, be present. That's one of the best things that you can give your employees, your business, your fellow coworkers is being present in that very moment that they are trying to communicate with you. So C, thank you. So C is chock full for me. C, I was born in Carthage, Mississippi. C, I lived a lot of my adult life in Columbus, Mississippi. That's where I had all 3 of my children. C, we have 2 C's in our organization. One C is called culture. The other C is called communication. We can never have enough culture and communication in our organization. I like to say that my husband and I have been married 38 years as of last week, and we still haven't figured out that big C called communication. So why would we think in business we would master it without working at it every day? Culture trumps skill every day for me. We will hire for culture and we'll train for skill. That's been our modus operandi for years now. So C's, also our corporate objectives. Can you communicate your corporate objectives? Can you communicate your corporate objectives without speaking them? And that's the challenge in your organization, is because what do they say about people and what they will, what is the phrase about they will not remember what you told them, but how you made them feel? That's part of the culture, isn't it? And that can be communicated in your corporate objectives. So C's, I could keep going on forever. I don't know why, but the C is really important. I was country come to town for sure. I lived right off of Central Expressway, thought I was going to drive downtown every day to work. After I almost got run over by one of their buses one day because my car didn't have the acceleration to get on the interstate, I said, I'm done. I am going to ride public transportation for the rest of the semester, which I did. And it was a great learning experience, but Dallas has changed many times over since I've been there. Another D that I learned a lot from, Demopolis, Alabama. One of our first accounts that we started up when we lived in Tuscaloosa was in Demopolis, Alabama. There was a paper mill, and then there was West Alabama Mental Health. Well, we had that customer for over 35 years. And I must say, that was where my husband wanted to see if I was really made of the stuff that I needed to be made of to handle the janitorial industry. He put me in a men's public restroom at West Alabama Mental Health and gave me a roto to scrub the floor. Now, if anybody's ever seen rotos, they go like this, and people make it look really easy, but if you raise it up, it'll go this way. If you push it down, it'll go this way. And I was petrified that I was going to wipe out all the fixtures in that public restroom for our customer we had just gotten. So that was one of my D's. D also is discernment for me. That's one of my big D's, in that I have that gift, but that gift is not always appreciated in business because others may not understand why you're discerning what you are discerning. And that's where trust comes in. You have to have built the trust so that others will give you that benefit of the doubt that your discernment will not lead them astray. And E, have you ever heard the law of echoes? You've heard of that? There's a story about a young boy on a mountain, and he would go, I love you, I love you, I love you. And the echoes would come back and say, I love you, I love you, I love you. And it was so gratifying. He lived with his grandfather, and his grandfather was punishing him for something that he did. And he was mad, and he ran outside, and he stomped his foot, and he goes, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. And the echo came back, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. And he was taken back. But that's what life is, isn't it? It's the law of echoes. What you give out, you get back. And so that's one of the E's that I have. Besides, excel in excellence And enjoy the ride, because this is a journey. It's not really a destination in the end with business. F. So F, what can you think about when you say F? Family, faith, freedom, forgiveness. F is a full word, isn't it? And it's something that you can experience in your business and personal. So F. And what about finding others' gifts and finding yourself too in this journey? Because I started off as a petroleum engineer, right? Now I'm a toilet bowl engineer, right? And so you never know where your journey is going to take you and what you're going to find out about yourself. God and I had a lot of conversations about the fact that I thought I was numbers and science, and they don't yell at you, and people do. And I'm in a people business, and that was not the journey that I thought that I was taking, but it's not my journey always, is it? So F. G. Who has G? G. Growth. Professional growth. G. Grace. You have to have grace, don't you, in business? Grace for yourself and for others. And I have had to learn that the hard way, because when you first start off, you're just gung-ho and you're going to save the world or you're going to conquer mountains. And then you have to say, what does that appear to others? And G also is Greenwood. That Greenwood, Mississippi is where I grew up, in the Mississippi Delta. And I always talk about coming to Memphis. I moved to High Cotton, coming to Memphis from Greenwood. H. H is also Hernando, Mississippi. That's where we landed before we ended up in the Memphis proper area. And that's where children went to school for a little while. But then I thought, I need to actually live where my business is so that I can be totally immersed in the community. And then H, helping others, home. We can't forget home, can we? But then we'll get to and then I've got a comment about that one. Who has I? Integration. When we talked about home a minute ago, I struggle with that word balance. I think it's integration of family and business, and have been fortunate enough for that to happen in our family, for the appreciation of what hard work means, what business engagement, what meeting others mean, and then information. Information. Information is currency. We talk about that in our organization all the time. How do you spend that currency? How do you spend that information that you're obtaining, whether it's for your position in the organization or it's for an organization that you're supporting? And so for information, we talk about that currency. And how do you get it? You get it by listening, right? And what do we say? God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. And then the last I, imagination. That's what fuels us, isn't it? Like I used the imagination today with the cards. That was so much fun to be getting outside of the everyday norm, just to stretch, to be children like Lee has in her building every day, to say, hey, where can our imagination take us? And we don't want to lose that spark, that I. J. So what are some other J's? Joy, right? Juggle. Do you juggle? Right? But you want to be present, right? The B, you want to be present, but you've got to juggle. So thinking through that and juggling what your next adventure is while you're still working on this thing, right? And then my last, which has taught me so much on the J, is we host our Japanese partners with Duskin, ServiceMaster, about every 6 months here in the office. And they ask such pointed, thoughtful questions that it's a blessing to have that opportunity to learn from them and their culture. Now, God knew that I needed to be born in the United States rather than in Japan because I asked too many questions and that could be disrespectful in Japan. And so I get to ask them all here in the United States and not have to worry about me being inappropriate with all my questions that I ask. But one of the things they also taught me is when I went over to visit them, because that was the right thing to do as many times as they'd come to the United States, even wrapping a package is done with such intentionality that it made me stop and ponder about acts that I do that I am not as intentional about. Then how could I be more intentional, just like our partners at Duskin are? K, 2 things for K, and then we'll move on so that you can get to the food. Daddy always told me, Stacy, keep your word. About all a man has is his word. And so I remember that when I do not promise something that I cannot deliver so that I can be a man or woman of my word. The other one is kiss. Instead of keep it simple, the other word, it's keep it simple, Stacy. Kiss. So every time we start talking in business about what we're going to do or how we're going to do it, we try to dial it back to the simplest possible thing that we can do so that it can be repeatable and sustainable if we keep it simple. So we work on the KISS method all the time. L, that was my first phrase. LLL, lifelong learner. Yes, you aced it. The other one that I had were life lessons. My children used to beg, Mama, please don't give us any more life lessons today. Because I would usually be able to draw from experiences and say, all right, so this is going to be a life lesson. Mama, please no more. Please no more today. All right, so M, your tank needs to be full. And your tank gets full by making memories, because life is not always a bed of roses, right? That's the phrase. And when it's not, memories are what help keep your tank full. So that's my M, in addition to a small stint in Malden, Missouri, in this journey to Memphis, Tennessee. N, because of my way of learning, notes is my other N. I take notes. That's how I remember things. And I have a bundle of notes sitting in from all of my journals in business. And I find that is one of the best ways for me to learn. So and I cannot think undoubtedly unless I have a pen or a pencil in my hand. That's one of my learning ways that I learn. Oh, we try not to use the word obstacle. We say, this is our opportunity. Now, how are we going to make the best of it? So that's our O. P. P is for pearls. How is a pearl formed in an oyster? It's through that irritation that it makes a covering over that foreign object, and we end up getting a pearl after all of that irritation. So I'm wearing pearls today as a reminder of that's the beauty that can come out of the irritation, the obstacle that you were fighting through. And then P, a problem solver. That's what I like. That's where I thrive, is a problem solver. P is for puzzles. I love solving puzzles. P is also for praise. Praise is essential for your team and for your family and for your friends. So P is really a rich letter too. All right, so Q. Q is for quotes for me. We had a situation where my team was never prepared for our management meeting, our leadership meeting. So I wanted them to be proactive and not reactive. So I've required them to bring quotes to the management meeting, something that spoke to them. And initially, we had to challenge some of the quotes, because then I would say, do you really believe that? Or is this just something you found? Or you couldn't bring a quote that was unknown. It had to have an author, so you had to do a little bit of research. Well, quick story. I had a leader who would not bring his quote. Everybody else around the table had their quote, but he didn't. And I know you're not supposed to do this, but in the end, I finally said, you will not be on the team any longer if you don't bring a quote next week. I'm going to fire you. It was amazing. We sat down at the table, and all of a sudden, as we were doing quotes, all these papers started being passed around underneath the table. Every one of my leaders had brought an extra quote, and they were sending it to that one leader who had not been bringing his quote, and he had his quote for the day. But you're talking about affirmation of a team. They were all willing to go the extra mile to make sure, because they knew I was dead serious, to make sure that he remained a part of their team. So quotes mean a lot to us now. Then the other Q I have real quick is questions. I love to ask questions. I don't mind questions. And when I was in high school, I had a teacher pull me out of class, calculus class, and ask me to stop asking questions, that the rest of the class only wanted to learn how to do the problems so they could get the grade. They didn't want to know why. It crushed me. My mother was a teacher. I went to my mother. I was almost in tears. But years later, I have seen that he was in error, not the questions and the drive to understand. Now, I probably could have not kept asking the questions maybe as long, and maybe we needed to have a conversation afterwards, but to just say, don't ask the questions because you're upsetting the class, was such a shame. But here we are today. Questions prevailed, right? R. Respect was one of my words. Repeatable, sustainable processes is what we talk about in our organization all the time, because it has to be able to be communicated throughout the whole organization, because as a leader, you have to have the message and the ability to deliver the message on every level within your organization, because you're not always present, right? The other R for me is when you hear the word revenue. Have you ever heard the phrase, not all revenue is good revenue? If you haven't, you'll learn it in your journey. And so that's another important R. And then the other R for me is that we started a business in the journey. Chris goes, Stacy, we're supposed to be retiring. You're not supposed to be starting a business in Reno, Sparks, Nevada. How in the world are we going to do that? Well, that's my next adventure. And that's where the sparks and the imagination and the growth occur and keep me excited about what tomorrow brings, not only here, but there, and the ability to make a difference in other people's lives. Yes. Yeah. But servant leadership is really important in our organization. Another S, lived in Starkville, Mississippi, going to school. Another S, lived in Senatobia, Mississippi, in a little small duplex with 5 of us, with the children pushing each other on roller skates through the pantry door. So interesting S's. Another S, there are seasons of life, and we just have to get comfortable in the season that we're in, because that season will change. It's inevitable. And then the last S is a fun one, scuba diving. Love to scuba dive. Love it. It opens up a whole new world. If anybody's interested in the conversation after it's over, can definitely talk about the creatures that God created underneath the surface of the ocean. T. Teamwork makes the dream work. That's our major T. And our team says it all the time. It used to be they'd go, oh no, she's saying it again. But they've lived it enough that they believe it now, and it's no longer corny. Teamwork makes the dream work. Time. We all only have 24 hours a day. God and I had a conversation about that, and he said, Stacy, you're not managing the time I'm giving you right now well, so why would I give you any more? Because I asked him, and he said, I won't do it. And so we all have 24 hours. It's a choice on how we spend our time. Tongue. I've got to tame this tongue, like James said he needed to in the Bible. And I'm a work in progress, because it can be flaming at times, but we keep working at it in our organization and me personally. Truth. The truth will set you free. You don't ever have to remember what you say if you say the truth. And last T for me, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. That's where we started our business, was in Tuscaloosa. Years ago, when I didn't want to leave the oil field, and we started our first business. You for understanding. Understanding is an interesting word that requires being present and actively listening, right? To understand. And understanding your limitations, and then where others can help fill in the gaps for you. V. And you have to stay true to your vision, correct? Because you don't want to be like a sailboat in the wind, and wherever the wind blows you, you change your vision. Your team needs you anchored in that vision and being able to communicate that vision. But don't have tunnel vision, though, because there's so much out there that you can learn from to be able to help your organizations as they grow. W. And W is for words. You have to be careful with your words, don't you? Especially if you're leading an organization, because words can communicate so much. And work. I'm a work in progress. Always will be, I believe. X, extra mile. Zig Ziglar said there are no traffic jams on the extra mile.
Perfect.
And I thought that was so appropriate for extra. Why? Yes. We are trying to always develop a culture of yes. That is not always easy to get your team, people, to develop that culture of yes. So you want to think of all the reasons why you can't or shouldn't or wouldn't. But developing that culture of yes is so important for your internal organization and those you serve in the community in business. You need to find your own voice in that yes too, because you have something to offer. And so you have to believe in it to find that voice in the yes. And then Z, we're wrapping up. And so I've heard it mentioned more than once, but I say zip code. Appreciate where you've been and appreciate where you are now and what you can add to your zip code that you're in right now.